We had two very good, strong, inspirational speeches for the next few discussions we are going to have. And the first of one, subtopic, it's called Innovation and Ethical Implication. And for it, I want to invite Professor Dr. Paulius Pakutinskas, UNESCO Chair on AI, Emerging Technologies and Innovation for Society. And he'll invite his panelists. Hi, take your floor.
Some technical break.
Yeah, so in Vilnius we create stories.
Yeah.
So here is story and history on the same page. And now we can start probably, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, so hello. I'd like to invite the only one live person who will participate in this discussion. It's Thomas Schneider, and to our floor. And as it was introduced, I'm Paulius Pakutinskas. It's the same complicated family name as Tomas Lamanauskas, so you can call just Paulius. And why I'm here, so just to discuss very controversial things like innovations and ethics, and maybe some regulation, because ethics is part of regulations at the same time. And we have our panelists, which they are online, so it's Vanya Skoric, Nicola Palladino, and Marina Reiberin. So I hope they will join us in some way. And after a few minutes, I will ask all our panelists to introduce why they are here, how they are connected with the issue. But for the first step, let's have a game, a play. We will check, do you have your phones? So could you just take your phones, and we can have our audience poll. So please use Menti. Oh, I see our participants are joining. So we need the third one. Okay, hello, Marina, Nicola.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. So, and we have a question. What do you consider to be the main ethical concerns of AI? And please vote. Use Menti. Join Menti.com. You can use code. Here it is 120666360. And we have privacy and data protection, bias, autonomous decisions making and accountability, job displacement and economic inequality, safety and security, misinformation and manipulation as existential risks, and others. Why others? Because there are much more risks, and some of them were mentioned in key speakers' notes. So, wow, we see quite clear leaders. Because there were quite a lot of such, researches, and there are quite different answers. There were some where safety and security and cybersecurity was mentioned as a key point. But here we can see that, so let's say misinformation and manipulation is the main point. And the bias, general bias is topic which is quite equal to misinformation. And privacy and data protection issues are on big concern. Maybe we do not think about existential risks so much, but anyway, so we can see that is That is what concerns our auditorium here. So that's very interesting. And I will ask a question for our panelists. So maybe we just can have short roundtable on what are you doing, how you are connected with the topic. Maybe we can start from Thomas.
Yes, thank you. My name is Thomas. I work for the Swiss government, and I happen to be, as the Secretary General of the Council of Europe has said, the one that led the negotiations on the Framework Convention on AI in the last 2 years. And we've been dealing with AI for many times, also in another committee at the Council of Europe that deals with media, mass media, and human rights in the information society. And this is probably where the AI popped up as one of the first areas, because with Cambridge Analytica and all of these scandals, of course, people realized that this thing algorithms have power, and yeah, that's it.
Perfect, thank you. Maybe you can go to Vanya.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vanya Škorić. I'm a program director at the European Center for Not-for-Profit Law, a non-profit organization that works on protection of human rights and civic freedoms, and also in digital space. That's why we deal with AI as well.
Perfect. And Nicola?
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I'm an assistant professor on global governance of artificial intelligence on the University of Salerno. And I'm also an expert member of the Joint Technical Committee of the International Standard Organization on Artificial Intelligence, where they are developing several standards to comply with the ethical issues and human rights related issues connected with artificial intelligence.
Perfect, thank you. And Marina?
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here as well. So I'm Marine. I'm working for Lenovo, and today I'm coming with two hats. First, because I'm working in a company, in an high-tech company, where AI is obviously one of the key development area or a key trend. And the second reason is because I am leading a specific initiative through an NGO, which is really looking at how to mitigate some risk of AI, and more specifically, gender bias risk. So how does AI can potentially lead to discrimination? So obviously, very much involved in the ethical aspect of AI.
Perfect. So we see that we have really experienced experts. So our task is now to provoke them to talk and say all secrets. We'd like to have very interactive our discussion. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Here is a microphone, which will be pulled to you, and you can ask. So you are free to do anything in the topic. And we're talking about these two, like a bit controversial sometimes, or maybe not, we will find, issues. So when we talk about AI, so it's innovations, because we like to be innovative. We like to be very skilled, technical. As Thomas Lamanauskas said, we need to solve big problems which are impossible to solve without AI. But we have some concerns, and we talk about ethics. So is it contradicting, or maybe we can to do some solutions what are good? So my first question for all of panelists, just for warm up, why we're talking so much about artificial intelligence ethics and artificial intelligence, but we do not talk about some internet or social networks ethics, where we have a lot of problems too. But somehow we stress AI as more problematical, maybe. Maybe we can start from Thomas.
Thank you. Well, we've also been talking about ethics on social media and so on and so forth. But I guess the difference is that with social media, until and including the Arab Spring in 2011, we were all thinking that, or many of us were thinking that more or less naturally, new tools, new technologies will lead to a better world and to more democratization and so on and so forth. And then we realized And we made the same mistake like people 100 years ago with radio and other new communication tools, that you can also use these tools for other things than good things. And I think we're just a little bit more, we've burned our fingers already in the 10 years, so that we now know that these tools can be used for good and bad things. And people are more concerned also because people realize the power. But of course, algorithms, if you talk about AI, algorithms are part of all the tools that you refer to. So it's actually the same, or it's a component of the same.
Thank you. What about other panelists? So, yeah.
I would maybe say that maybe it concerns more people because this is also related to the explainability. We don't master, or most of people don't master what is behind artificial intelligence. So it's a little bit the fear of black box, black box. So that could be one. And also I think it's related to some bad buzz that we heard, on the news, where we see what it could look like, if AI is not led ethically. So, I'm thinking about some bad buzz that happened a few years ago where we show that AI could discriminate people, especially if we use it for in legal context or also in employment context. So I think that has maybe raised some concern. At least it was the case for me.
Okay, thank you. So, Nicolas?
Hello. Well, I think that we are talking so much about artificial intelligence ethics also because, compared to the other digital technologies, artificial intelligence has a more immediate and perceivable impact on people's life. We are talking about applications that are used to screen our CV when apply for a job position or to access to a university. They are used to assess our risk profile when we request a loan. And we also see during the last election how they could be powerful with regard to the manipulation and polarization of public opinion. And so while, as also Thomas highlighted, when we were used to talk about, to think about internet as, fundamentally beneficial technologies that help us to spread, improve democracy. And but in the case of artificial intelligence, we are more aware of the risks associated with these technologies, also because they are more close to our experience. And even for these, I think there is all this talk about AI ethics, because in the end, ethics could be defined, as an approach to identify what are the most proper behaviors and rule in order to maximize the benefit of a situation while minimizing the risks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Vanya?
Yes, thank you for the interest for our audience and to make it more interactive. I would actually challenge some of the assumptions. First of all, the ethics concept has been evolving, and actually the conversation moved towards the rights framework, the human rights framework, in many of the policy and regulatory efforts, not only concerning AI, but also the internet and the social media. So when we talk about the potential harms and potential risks, we frequently in the conversation, not only in the policy sphere, but also in the academic and research sphere, more and more talk about rights. Also, I think the internet and social media are involved in the conversation together with AI, because we know and increasingly are aware that all of those are also being powered by AI in some way. So when we talk about AI and the risks and benefits and ethical and human rights dimensions, we actually touch upon all of these topics.
Yeah, and this...
I would just like to react, because I was waiting if somebody would mention it. To give you a simple answer on the question is, because we've all seen Terminator and other movies that are dealing with AI, and something like social media or other things are not so easy to personalize, but everybody knows what a robot is that could destroy mankind and so on. So we've all been influenced by this fear of the man, and starting with Frankenstein and whatever, the man creating the Superman that will then kill us. And of course, that is the hype that the media, the journalists, the big tech industry themselves and politicians all mutually reinforce, and this is why we are not talking about data governance, which is equally important, but we are talking about AI. That's because of creators of movies and stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. You did a great job, because my target was to provoke you, but Thomas provoked you. So thank you very much. And that's a very good point, because there are quite good researches on trust of AI, and we can see that in different societies, in different cultures, we can see quite different acceptance and trust on AI. And we can see quite clear division between Asia, let's say China, India, Brazil, Singapore, where they trust much more, twice or sometimes more, than European countries, or let's say rich countries in some cases, okay? So, and when we talk about ethics, ethics can be understood quite different in different societies, different cultures. So how we can increase the trust to AI, what we can do? So, especially when we know that Europe is not the strongest economy in usage of AI. So maybe we can start from somebody online, maybe Nicolas.
Sorry, well, what about how we can increase the trust across different society and cultural context? Well, I will be quite optimistic, because in the last few years we had a flourishing of initiatives trying to set in some principle for the regulation governance of AI, and we can see that all of them converge around a very narrow set of principles that are the usual suspect: transparency, accountability, fairness, human oversight, safety and security. And of course, they are very, very high-level principles, and then differences in interpretation occur when we move toward the implementation of these principles. But anyway, I think it's a very, very good sign that we have this kind of common ground, a common lexicon around which we can develop our discourses. And yes, I personally think that probably we have to, as already highlighted by previous speakers, we have to move from ethics to rights. And I believe that we should base a future regulation on the international human rights law, and I think that the Universal Declaration on Human Rights could be a very good base to overcome all the cultural and geographical differences, given that it's a document that will be signed by more than 190 different countries. Yes, we know that there are differences around the world in the level in which human rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights has been implemented, make it legally enforceable. But anyway, I think that is a good starting point. And last things, I think that behind the cultural differences, I think that every human being on earth wants the same things. They don't want to be discriminated. They want to communicate freely. They want that its privacy respected. They want not to be manipulated. They not will be subjected to a completely automated processes without having the possibility to appeal a decision that could potentially damage his interest. And so I think that we, all the human beings on the earth, have this kind of things in common, and these things, and exactly the things that are protected, promoted, safeguarded by international human rights law and by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thank you.
Perfect. So we go to human rights, as it was mentioned by Vanya. So ethics is somehow related to human rights, and that's easier for us to understand. Marine, do you have your opinion on this issue? How we can increase trust, especially in different societies, in different cultures?
Well, I believe, there is a role that everyone is playing to raise awareness about what is AI and how we are starting to organize ourselves at different level, in terms of governance, to make sure that we put in place the right safeguard. and I believe, when I say everyone has a responsibility, on my side, I'm thinking about the role of companies, tech company, and how, they are also there to contribute in, implementing the right governance, but also, raise awareness about what is really AI, unlock some fear related to AI, because most of the time AI is used on applications which are far from anything related to human, which are more about processes, optimization of logistics, or those type of things, and then explain what is put in place when AI is using some or have some impact on humans. So just want to raise that everyone has his responsibility to increase the awareness and the understanding, and I fully include, the role of tech companies.
Okay, good. We will go to stakeholders after a few minutes. And Vanya, do you have something to add?
Just to share the concrete data, I posted in the chat as well the link to the global study Trust in AI from KPMG last year, which showed that actually institutional safeguards are the strongest driver of trust for people globally. And people are more trusting of AI systems when they believe that the current regulatory framework are sufficient to make AI use safe, and have confidence in the government, technology, and commercial entities to develop, use, and govern AI. So this clearly shows the pathway we need to take, and of course, some regions have started on this pathway.
Yeah, this study is really good. Maybe everything is changing, by days and hours. So maybe there will be, if we will do a new study, it will be a bit different. But that's really good to fix the situation and to look how world looks like, because it was worldwide. So it's really good study. So please read who has the possibility. Thomas, what you'd like to add on?
Yes, and it has been referred to this morning about the comparison to engines. When ChatGPT came up, I had to talk to many Swiss media and journalists and parliamentarians, because they all wanted to know what is AI, what can we do, and so on and so forth. And I realized also that, like always, when journalists and politicians see a problem, they want to have a Mr. Digital, a Mr. Cyber, one cybersecurity government office, one law that will solve all the problems. That's one element, and that it works less and less. And the other thing is that I realized when discussing what to do, that actually, there are similarities between how humankind deal with disruptive technologies, whether it's this one or previous ones, and probably also future ones. And because I'm not a lawyer working for a government, but a historian and economist, of course, the connection to engines is, there are so many connections, because that was a disruptive technology that was replacing human or animal labor, turning it into motion in vehicles, but also in machines that produce something. And do we have one engine law that regulates engines in one way all over the world? Do we have a UN agency for engines? No, because it's all context-based. We have regulation for cars, for airplanes, for different types of cars, for the people that drive the cars or the airplanes, for the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And the same for machines. There are health issues, there are other product security issues, and so on and so forth. And we have different levels of, and so much for harmonization. We have different levels of harmonization depending on the context of where an engine is used. In the aviation system, it is fairly harmonized, so you can land a plane all over in the world according to the same procedures. If you take the cars, our friends on the island in the northwest of Europe, they still drive their cars on the other side. The cars are built so that they are driven on the other side of the road. We allow them to drive their cars with their expertise here. It more or less works. You see, and the Germans, for instance, they still think that they can have roads where they have no speed limits, because that's important to their identity, as that's one part of their freedom. Of course, it's also important for the image of the auto industry. And that doesn't mean that they have more dead people per year, because they have to take responsibility themselves compared to other countries that have very strict rules. In Italy, you have at every turn, you have a sign that says, 90, 70, 50, 30, 10. And as a Swiss to think like, do I really have to break down to 10? I know all the Italians are driving through with at least 70. That just means drive a little slower. So just to say that ways of dealing with risks are cultural, based on your history and so on. And you will never get to harmonize this unless you harmonize all cultures. But of course, you will have to interoperabilize and harmonize things, and you probably have to harmonize and interoperabilize things more in a digital world, because it's much easier to move AI systems and data around the world and copy them than it was with engines. Thank you.
Perfect. A lot of good examples which just illustrate the situation. But I have a question. So we have a lot of initiatives in over the world in different formats like UNESCO, OECD, G20, so Hiroshima AI process, professional level associations, and so on and so on and so on. So we have looks like so many documents. Let's talk about soft law, some recommendations. Why we have so many, and do we need so many?
We will see much more. And again, look at engines. How many technical standards do we have for engines in different machines? How many laws do we have that regulate engine-driven machines? It's thousands and thousands of technical norms, of legal norms, and then again of social cultural norms. And we are about to build the same for AI. And of course, this is painful, it's hard work. It goes slightly faster than developing the machines and developing the regulation on the machines. But we have to develop, again, there's no one-size-fits-all solutions. And the Secretary General of the Council of Europe has said it, and also Thomas has explained what they do with partners in the sectors. We'll have to have norms to use AI in all kinds of contexts, and we have to have some horizontal shared understanding and maybe some norms about how to do risk assessment across all sectors. But we'll have to develop rules for every single application of AI. The question is, do we all have to develop thousands of laws, or can we maybe, and as a Swiss, I would rather say, let's see what the problem is and try to find the easiest, most pragmatic solution. That may not always be a super complicated, bureaucratic answer, but basically we have to find a way to deal with AI in every single way it is used, in every single area it is used.
Good. Marine, do you have your opinion here?
Yeah, I was about to make the comment, because I believe there is so many initiatives, as you said, hard, soft, guidance, but somehow, they talk to different people. So I believe, there is recommendation or guidance for different type of audience. So I don't believe that we can come with a kind of consensus on what is the ultimate guidance or regulation, because we just said before, it also adapt to his own context, to the own culture of the audience, to the different type of stakeholders. So I believe this is okay to have so many initiatives, and it's probably demonstrates how different stakeholders want to handle and want to contribute in making addressing this topic the right way. And I can share with you the experience that I had myself. So as I said before, I'm leading a dedicated, an initiative dedicated more specifically to how to produce or use AI in a way that it does not amplify, replicate, or amplify gender bias. This is a very specific aspect, of the ethics. So you can say, well, then, if you are so specific, then there should not be so many initiatives. And as we started to work on that one, we realized that there is an ecosystem of association, initiative working on the ethical aspect, which was already approaching this specific topic, but they were approaching it in a different way. So, it was this already 4 years ago. And we said, okay, so do we need to align? Do we need to be only one voice? And we realized that, comparing the different initiatives, we were every time proposing something different, a little thing different. For example, our initiative was rather recommendation, supporting companies. So we were talking to companies. Other initiative was talking to companies, but more specifically to lead them to a kind of certification, so a label. Another initiative was rather focusing only on the technical aspect of AI, when we were looking at different type of area of action. So every time there is a little difference, which is okay, because then we believe that the audience in front of us will have the choice to adapt and choose what is the most adapted to their own challenge. And rather than trying to be as one, and merge our initiative, we said, no, let's rather acknowledge there is different approach and promote each other. Make sure that we give anyone we talk to, we give them this panel of choice. If you want to take action on gender bias, there is what we propose, but also what the other one are proposing. So join forces by talking to our different audience with our own specificities, but make sure that we try to promote each other, that we also give the opportunity to let more people know about all those initiatives. And because we can demultiply the number of intervention, the number of people we talk to, then we are probably more effective than trying to merge. So I think there is no issue of being more and more initiative and different people who wants to take action on it.
Vanya, could you add something?
I think this is a perfect segue also to the issue of diverse stakeholders and who needs to be involved, if you agree. Absolutely agree with both Thomas and Marine's points. The framework that we operate in, both technical and legal and policy, is so complex and then fragile at the same time that it really requires robust safeguards are in place to protect individuals and societies from the negative impact of AI and to allow us to actually enhance the benefits. But this also means, as Marine was pointing out in the example, that the AI development and use needs to become fully inclusive. So to involve diverse disciplines, variety of expertise. We don't even probably know who is needed still, aside from other disciplines that we already identified. And also different groups and communities with some lived experience and direct on-the-ground presence to provide input, to provide examples, to provide warning signs, but also to provide the needs that can be addressed. And all of that needs to happen throughout the whole AI lifecycle, from design, testing, development, piloting, use, evaluation. So it's really important to embed also in the standard setting processes as we start to agree how these standards should look like in various different contexts, that AI developers and deployers really proactively include external stakeholders and to prioritize diverse voices, including those that might be actually affected by various AI systems, with a simple goal to make AI better and to make it beneficial for all of us and the society as a whole.
Thank you, Nicolas. Maybe you have short adjustment, something to add.
Yeah, of course. But I think that having this priority of initiatives is a necessity also because, artificial intelligence is so pervasive that involves so many layers of governance. So we have a transnational level in which, we need to in some way harmonize the rules. And then there is also a national level in which state have, I think the rule to refine the high-level principle that have been established at the international level according to the specificness of the national context, and they also have to develop, accountability and oversight system for companies, and then also, above all, put into place the enforcement capability. But we also need to involve a technical layer. And so this is the role of technical communities or standard setting organizations that have the very fundamental role to translate the rules and the rights and principles that we have defined at the political level into something that could be actually implemented, that could be translated at the operational level. And then we also need the contribution of ONG, media, and civil society, because we need to raise the awareness about what are the social and political implication of the technical specification of the technologies that we are building. And then I think that we have so many initiatives also because there is some kind of, power play, power struggle between different organizations that want to have a say on this very relevant topic. But in the end, I think that this is beneficial also because my impression is that all these initiatives are more or less overlapping, and so they are contributing to create a common discourse about how to regulate artificial intelligence. That is a very fundamental prerequisite for norm creation for the emergence of what is in political science called a regime complex. That is, yes, a set of rules, institutions around which we can, regulate a particular domain.
Okay, thank you. As I promised, we are waiting for questions from auditorium. Okay, so, oh, wow, how many? So I think the first was lady in white. Maybe you can just shortly introduce and yourself and point maybe a specific panelist or all of panelists.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the word. I'm Emily Khachatryan, coming and representing Council of Europe, the Advisory Council on Youth of Council of Europe, coming from Armenia. And my question was more specific about AI being used at border control, because right now it is a very rising issue as it's causing a vast amount of discrimination. And I would like to ask your opinion and the ethical usage of it, as you already discussed. Ethics and human rights are interchangeable words. And do you think these kind of surveillance technologies, because they're also getting a lot of biometric data on migrants, which is not ethically correct and is violating human rights. So do you think it should be fully banned or maybe used with human supervisors in order to prevent this? Thank you.
Perfect. Would you like to address to somebody or any of the panelists?
No, whoever
no? Okay,
wants
so
to answer.
let's start from Thomas.
Thank you.
Well, I don't work for the Ministry of Police or whatever it's called in your countries, or justice. But I mean, this is already a reality. In Switzerland, we could vote about 5 years ago or 10 years ago whether we would want to have biometric passports or not. And there were some people that thought that this was not such a good idea. Of course, we were under pressure by the US and others that told us if you don't have biometric passport, it will be much more complicated. So things are normally not so simple. No, and then it was almost turned down, not necessarily because people had a problem with the biometric data stored in your passport, but the main problem was that it was decided to store the data in a central database. And people didn't like that idea of a central database. They would rather have preferred to have the data stored like more decentralized, because there's a feeling that it is safer. It's not so easy for wanted or unwanted, let's say, giving access. So it's less about the what, sometimes it's about the how and what the safeguards are. Because let's be honest, it's much quicker, it's much easier if you can walk through an airport and just put your passport into a machine, then queue. So these things, if these things are used in a trustworthy way, then it can actually make your life easier. If these things are not used in a trustworthy way, and if you don't know who has access to the data, who doesn't, then of course you don't trust it and you try not to use it. You may be forced to use it every now and then. So again, and also the whole face recognition discussion is, there are areas also in the medical field where emotion recognition, face recognition may be a great solution for a big problem. But if you use the same technology with a different purpose in another area, it can be a disaster. So you really need to look into the context and find the regime for each context based on, and we hope that this is the value added of the convention, that gives you a guidance on a very high abstract principle level. What are the important issues? What does it mean to keep up human rights, democracy, and rule of law in particular uses? But it doesn't give you the concrete answers. You need to develop themselves in the context.
Perfect. Maybe somebody from other panelists would like to add?
Maybe I can add. I will put my legal hat on now as a human rights lawyer. I think the answer lies in your question, because if you premise it as an AI system that already breaches human rights, then the clear answer is it should not be used. Now the question is, again, safeguards and the assessment To what extent does it harm the rights? If it breaches the human rights, it is essentially unacceptable. This is not only my saying, this is the saying of the UN Special Rapporteurs, UN OHCHR Human Rights Commissioner, European Human Rights Commissioner. So everybody in the field with some authority on human rights have expressed the clear request to ban such use of AI that breaches human rights and poses threats and risks of mass surveillance and data grab.
Good. Maybe okay. So maybe we can just listen to two questions and then summarize.
Sorry.
Yes.
Can I add something to this question?
Sure.
Yeah, well, thank you, the audience, for this question, because I think one of the most relevant concern about artificial intelligence. And well, just to say that, as you know, the European Union approved a couple of months ago the Artificial Intelligence Act, and this is a very important piece of legislation because the first comprehensive legislation on artificial intelligence that set a series of requirements and limitations for the development, deployment, and use of artificial intelligence that are able to offer some guarantees, safeguard for human rights, but unfortunately, all these safeguards do not apply for military, defense, and security purposes, especially for migration and border control. And personally, this is one of the most disappointing points of the Artificial Intelligence Act. It's also very dangerous because we are allowing to experiment some kind of mass surveillance technologies that one day could also be extended to other field or sectors one day proved to be very efficient and by the point of view of government useful for security purpose that could be also extended to also the European citizen. And so I think coming to your question, if we are just to ban this kind of technology, I think it's sufficient to apply even the case of border control, the same kind of guarantee that a limitation that we established for European citizens.
Good. So we have two questions, and then we will round up. Okay. Please.
Thank you. My name is Cătălin Donțu. I'm representing EuroDIG. I'm currently a mathematical and computing sciences student for AI at Bocconi, and I would like to ask, so we already know of the uses of AI in environmental policy. Early warning systems make use of machine learning algorithms to predict wildfires, to predict earthquakes, and it's used more and more by local and national administrations. During the COVID pandemic, there was much talk of optimizing governance, of making it more mathematical in a sense. And another example is in 2023, for example, Romania introduced Ion, the world's first AI governmental counselor. And I wanted to ask, so with the surge of the popularity of AI, how will administration and the nature of the landscape of administration change? Is government by algorithm a growing trend? Is it something to be expected? I know Hidalgo, one MIT professor, even went as far as saying that in the near future we could have a sort of augmented democracy with people's digital twins basically taking a part in decision-making, sort of a decentralized system. I wanted to ask, besides the risks that were already mentioned, what other risks would you say are probable, and what benefits could be expected? And in your opinion, is this a viable possibility? Thank you.
Perfect question. Let's ask one more, and then panelists can choose which would you like to answer.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Wolfgang Kleinwächter. I'm a retired professor for Internet Policy and Regulation. Both the Framework Convention and the AI for Good Summit of the ITU excluded the military use of AI, but we know from the war in Gaza and Ukraine that AI plays a central role. You know, the Time magazine recently had a cover story, the first AI world war, and Guterres, the Secretary of the United Nations, has called for a ban, and just last week the Pope addressed the G7 summit meeting in Italy and said you cannot leave killing of people in the hands of machines. So that means my question goes, how to deal with the military dimension? Very delicate, I know, but we have to deal with this. Thank you.
Yeah, let's hope that we will have some other agreements on military, and it's really strange. We are producing more and more precise guns, weapons, but we're killing more and more civilians in all wars. So it looks like a bit contradiction. So maybe you can choose any of these questions.
Well, actually, all the three raise issues that I also wanted to raise. The first one about why the EU AI Act leaves out security. Sometimes the answer is fairly simple, because the Commission only has a mandate to regulate markets. National security is an issue of the member states, and they would never give the competence to the Commission to regulate their national security. I'm simplifying slightly, but of course that's one of the main reasons why. Also, that shows how an institutional setting shapes the instruments. If you look at the US, if you look at the UK, they have different approaches, also because they have different legal institutions, different legal traditions. The EU had, the only way they could regulate AI is the way they did, because of the way their institutions are made. That's one thing, which is sometimes nice not to forget. And then about military, of course, we at the Council of Europe as well, we don't have a mandate to deal with military issues. National security is something different, as long as it's civilian, like law enforcement and so on, but not the military part of it. And I just want to call this the elephant in the room. We know that in the current wars, algorithms are used in Ukraine, in Gaza, wherever in the world, and that there's this so-called race. And again, I mean, some wars in the past, in the last century, have been decided not only, but also by who had the better machines in the air, on the ground, in the water, and then, of course, you need to have a strategy on how they use them and so on. And this is a logical fact that as long as people think they can win something by starting a war, they will want to have the best technology to do that. Unfortunately, we were wrong in 1990 that we thought at least we Europeans have passed that stage. And the other thing about the governance model, first of all, and this is no matter whether you have like the EU horizontal law or whether you do it like the UK with sectorial adaptations, we all need to empower all administrations, all authorities. We need to empower a whole society to know about AI and data, otherwise we will not be able to cope with it. And then also to go back to the engine, and that will fundamentally transform the way we govern. If you look at the engines, when the first railways basically conquered Europe, there was no Italy, there was no France, there was no Germany. These countries didn't exist. 25 years later, we had these national states, we had parliaments with a working class, with entrepreneurs, and then like the farmers or Christian conservatives. That was also, to some extent, an effect of the Industrial Revolution and the milieu this created, that this transformed the governance models of our societies. And the same will, in one or another way, happen probably also with AI. We'll use AI to democratize our system. We'll use AI to not have to work for 5 years on a law and then implement it, and then 5 years another one. We have to go for much more agile and dynamic rules making with the use of AI. But also the milieus are changing, the political parties are breaking apart, so probably in 20 to 50 years' time we'll be in a different world also when it comes to how our societies are governed and decisions are taken.
Thank you. Thank you. It looks like we have no time, so let's try to conclude. Just very, very few words. What is most important? What are takeaways from our discussions? Please do not forget the innovations, which was a bit, skipped from our discussion. So let's start from online, from Vanya.
Paulus? Okay, Menti, yeah? You will show Menti what?
No.
It's time to finish. So
okay.
We need like the last 2 sentences just to summarize.
Yeah. Okay. So please just. Okay. So what's very important to discuss that ethics is very connected to our human rights, and it's very important to have some understanding in different societies, the same understanding. And as we discussed, these all soft regulations are very, very important just because to have an agreement on some principles. For example, OECD, UNESCO, they joined a lot of countries. So that's very important to keep it. And I think we will go further and further to hard regulation anyway, as it is in the research, that it's really important to have some strict rules and sometimes really high penalties. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll continue with the next subtopic after like 13 minutes we have here, because we're meeting at 11:30. And what's more, I would really ask you all guys to check this QR code and leave us a review. All our host team would be really happy to get your reviews, because I saw till now we have only one, so please make it like at least 100. Okay, thank you.